Hi, and thanks for tuning in. Today I want to talk about fostering independence. I want to talk about why it's crucial, why it can be difficult to balance support and independence, and some preliminary steps that you can take in order to begin to get this balance right. This topic was prompted by a conversation that I had with a client this week who's a single mom who's in a position where she needs to travel for business and will need to take her 15-year-old son along with her. So we'll come around to the details of that in a moment. But first, let's talk about why fostering independence is so crucial. It's pretty obvious, right? It helps our children build self-confidence, resilience, problem-solving skills. It can even help them develop executive function skills, communication, and self-regulation. Ultimately, it helps them build self-determination and personal agency, which is what we are always raising our children to strive toward. Creating a balance between support and independence is a tricky thing to do parenting any child, but it can be especially nuanced when we're parenting autistic children who have higher support needs. Sometimes we're afraid if we don't step in and help, our child will face failure or face extreme frustration, which can be emotionally taxing for both child and parent. Sometimes we want to jump in because we just want it done and we can do it better ourselves. And other times we want to protect our children from poor choices. I have a great example of that in my own life. When my son was in high school, he went through a period where he only wanted to wear a blue sweater and blue pants every single day. And I was laying out his clothes for a long time, and then I realized he could probably lay out his own clothes because he knew exactly what he wanted to wear. One day, he comes downstairs and he's wearing green army leggings that were out of my daughter's closet and a red sweater. And he looked absolutely ridiculous. And I thought to myself, can I let him go to school this way? And I realized how to let him go to school this way. He had shown this independence. He had made a choice for himself. And this was a great example of what would be the downside, really. I don't think anyone would laugh at him, but even if they did, he wouldn't care. He thought he looked great. So let's get back to my client's situation. She was going on a trip, taking her 15-year-old son along, and he was going to have to spend some time alone in the hotel room, and that's what she was terrified of. Now, the first thing that's important to do is to assess the level of skill. Just because the child's 15 doesn't mean that they're able to spend time alone in a hotel room. My son certainly couldn't at that age, but this child is very different. He's able to seek out help if he needs it. He's able to speak to people. He's able to access technology to text his mom if that's what he needs. He's able to entertain himself for long periods of time. He has lots of interests. He loves the computer. He likes video games and all kinds of things. So he doesn't mind being alone and he can occupy his time. I asked her what specifically she was afraid of. And when she thought about it, she couldn't really articulate anything specific other than perhaps maybe he'd have a meltdown, which is a valid concern. But this is a great example of when you have a big ball of fear, it's really important to break it down into small parts. Let's look specifically at what we're worried about so that we can solve for each element. So I said, well, what do you think would happen if he felt like he was becoming dysregulated? Do you think he could text you? Well, yeah, he could do that. Do you think he could otherwise seek out help if he needed it? Yeah, he could do that. As we went through the list, she realized that in all likelihood, he could manage just fine. We talked about other instances where he had taken care of himself, where he had been able to problem solve. So the point of the assessment is to really look honestly at what you think your child's able to do, because it is really scary to let go and take a risk, right? It's scary to let your child stay in a hotel room for the first time. But if you assess all of the skills and you really believe that he can do it, it's worth then looking at what supports can you put in place to ensure that he's successful. So that raises another really important point. When you're building a skill like independence, just like any other skill, you want to offer an opportunity that's just outside the child's ability. Nothing that's so far outside that of course they couldn't be successful. And then you don't just throw them to the wolves, you set them up for success. So in this case, what this mom can do is set up a routine with her son where perhaps he texts her every hour, or they have a meeting place where they can meet at various times. She can bring his favorite food that he likes so that he doesn't get dysregulated worrying about what he's going to eat. There's just a lot of supports that she can put in place that support his heightened level of independence. So that's a great example of how you balance support and independence, right? He's taking a step up in independence because he's never done this before, but he's not doing it without any support. He's doing it with plenty of support. They will have a backup plan and then a backup plan for the backup plan. So let's do a quick summary so we can make sure that you have some actionable steps to apply to your life. Before I do that, I just want to take a moment and introduce myself if we haven't met. I'm Andrea Pollock. I'm a parenting coach for parents of autistic and neurodiverse children. All right, to summarize. First, we know that building independence is crucial. Why? Well, all children should work toward self-determination and self-agency, right? So as they grow into adulthood, they have a greater and greater say, according to their ability, to determine what goes on in their lives, right? Second, it's really important for the child's identity that they know that you believe that they're able to do things, right? If we're always overprotecting our children, we're sending a message, I don't believe you can do it, right? So it's something for us to think about. On the one hand, we're being protective as mama bears, right? But on the other hand, are we sending a message that says, I'm not sure I trust you can do it? So that's why it's crucial to work toward independence. Step number 2, when you're doing that, you want to assess your child's skills. Look at the next step of independence that you're looking at and assess what they've been able to do in the past, what they're able to do currently, examples that are consistent with what you're looking at, so that you can truly assess whether this is a proper next step of independence. You also want to assess your fears with specificity. You want to look at each specific thing you're concerned about and assess whether it is a true barrier to moving forward, and there will be some of those. Or is it just a big fear because parents worry? So we've covered why building independence to the highest level that the individual is able to achieve, why that's crucial, how to do it by first assessing his or her skills and your fears to realistically look whether the next step is something your child is capable of. And then finally, you want to balance support and independence. So we are going to allow our children to take that next step of independence, but not do it without any support. Of course, we're going to build in supports, like in the example with the client whose son is staying in the hotel room. He's not just going to stay there by himself. He's going to have knowledge of what to do if he feels hungry. He's going to know what to do if he feels lonely. He's going to know what to do if he feels like he just needs to talk to mom. They're going to have a plan for all of that so that he feels secure and confident and he's set up for success going into this new step of independence. I hope this was helpful. We'll talk more about building independence. It's a big topic. Can't possibly cover it in a few minutes, but I hope this was a good start for you. If you like this content, please consider liking the like button below and subscribing so that you can hear more of the content. And it also helps me reach more parents who will need to hear this message. Thanks again for tuning in. See you the next time.